Good morning, children. Today's our topic is National Policy on Education and Adult Education. By circulating a document, Challenge of Education, a Policy Perspective in 1985 throughout the country and initiating a thorough debate on it and collecting the main reactions and ideas thereon from different quarters, an outline of national education was developed in 1986. Our Parliament adopted National Policy on Education, which is known as National Policy of Education 1986. Thereafter, Ministry of Human Resource Development prepared a plan of action for implementation of the policy. This plan of action of NP 1986 has an independent and full-fledged chapter on adult education. A number of task forces were constituted by the ministry, which developed in detailed plan and action on new national program of adult education, indicating the strategy, targets and management system. National Policy on Education 1986 and Program of Action 1992 have highlighted the present scenario of literacy. The policy targets and implications for strategies are: National Policy on Education has envisaged that adult education would be a means of reducing economic, social and gender disparities. The main aim of the National Program of Adult Education is to provide education including literacy to the people who are in the age group of 15 to 35 and their number is about 100 million. Our past experiences have clearly revealed that literacy cannot become meaningful and interesting unless it includes practical information and skills which are relevant to daily life and needs of the learners. National Program of Adult Education would therefore lay emphasis on skill development and creation of awareness among the learners regarding national goals, development programs and about the liberation from oppressions. National Policy of Education 1986 emphasizes that new national program of adult education would be a phased time-bound program through which 100 million illiterates in the age group of 15 to 35 will be made literate approximately, and 40 million people will be made literate by 1990 and another 60 million by 1995. The implementation strategy of new national program of adult education may include reorganization of existing programs. First of all, national policy decided flexibility in organization and implementation of the program, greater use of spoken language of the learners may be made in literacy course contents and adult education literature. Emphasis may be given on training of adult education functionaries, decentralization of supervisory system, number of women instructors may be increased, continuity may be maintained for the duration of adult education programs, application of science and technology for improving the environment of learning centers, greater use of educational technology and research pedagogy of literacy instructions. Effort may be made to establish direct and continuing linkage between initial literacy instructions and post-literacy and continuing education. Volunteer agencies may be encouraged for their participation in the adult education programs by evolving simple procedures with regard to their involvement, continuity of their programs and their freedom in choice of their programs activity in the light of objectives of national policy on education. Shramak Vidyapeeths will pay greater attention towards rural workers, women workers, child labor, and effective programs of literacy and workers' education may be taken by Central Board of Workers' Education. Trade unions may also be involved and encouraged in adult education programs. Second is creation of environment and eradication of illiteracy. In National Policy of Adult Education 1986, creation of environment has been considered as a prerequisite for liquidation of illiteracy. Past experiences clearly show that adult education programs had suffered due to excessive dependence and administrative structure and lack of involvement of people, media, and educational institutions. Therefore, active cooperation may be sought from political parties and organizations of workers, peasants, women, youth, and students. Effective support will be provided through mass media. All the development departments will be involved in adult education work. The entire educational system will be committed to the cause of adult education. The entire administrative machinery will be involved in National Policy of Adult Education to ensure their support for awareness-oriented adult education programs. Next is establishment of linkage between adult education and development program. National Policy of Adult Education in 1986 considered that the linkage between adult education and other development programs is of great importance, as this may lead to success in achievement of the objectives of both adult education programs as well as different development programs. The linkage can be established. First is Integrated Child Development Scheme may also organize and run the program of functional literacy of women as an integrated part of ICDS. There may be also included the component of literacy and adult education in different programs of development for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Next, program of labor welfare emphasis may also be given on literacy and adult education. Employers will also be required to organize program of literacy and skill development. Welfare funds for various categories of workers will be used for running literacy and adult education program. Programs of women's development may also be include literacy and adult education for women. Functional literacy centers may be organized through Nehru Yuvak Kendras. The Nehru Yuvak Kendras will take up one project of 100 centers in each block of their districts. Next is mass program of functional literacy. National Policy of Education 1986 emphasizes on the need of organize new national adult education programs on the mass scale. Therefore, it calls for active involvement of country's youth, teachers, workers, and peasants in this mass program of functional literacy. Students may be encouraged to take up literacy work as a study service. They may take up literacy project as a part of work experience, and social or national service may be given its benefit and weightage in their final result sheets. Universities, colleges, and higher secondary schools may be given substantial institutional incentives for eradication of adult literacy in a specific areas. Similarly, trade unions, panchayati agencies, and other representative bodies will be also encouraged to voluntarily take up functional literacy program, and they may be provided with literacy kits and some organizational expenses for the same. A common man may be encouraged to take up literacy work as a voluntary service with full personal commitment. Volunteer agencies may also be involved for this purpose. Next is continuing education. In 1986 policy considers continuing education as an indispensable aspect of the strategy of human resource development and also for creation of a learning society. Continuing education includes post-literacy for new literates and school dropouts. It may help them in retention of literacy skills, continuation of learning beyond elementary literacy and application of this learning for improving their living conditions. Continuing education goes beyond post-literacy. Some steps may take for making the provisions of this continuing education is, first of all, establishment of Jan Shikshan Nilayams. For cluster of a village having population 5,000, these Jan Shikshan Nilayams may provide facilities of library, reading room, charcha mandal, TV, cultural activities to the people of these villages. Employers, trade unions and different other agencies of government may also organize programs of workers' education for improving the educational standards and upgradation of skills of workers. Next is all post-secondary education institutions including colleges, polytechnics and universities will also take up extension work in the same manner as they take up their instruction or teaching. Extension programs may include mass education as well as systematic courses of continuing of education for the workforce and professionals. Distance learning techniques will be widely used for these purposes. Next is libraries and reading rooms of the educational institutions will be opened in evening for the public. Voluntary efforts for establishing libraries and reading rooms will be encouraged. Radio, TV and films will be used effectively in order to achieve the objectives of educational recreation. Non-formal programs of vocational and technical education will be organized by keeping in view the needs and interests of learners. Women may be encouraged to participate equally with men in such programs. Next point is technical resource support. Efforts may be made for producing good learning materials, teachers, guide and training learner material for post-literacy and continuing education will be also developed. The work of State Resource Center will be reviewed for constant improvement. District resource units for adult education and non-formal education will form an integral part of DIETs will be given responsibilities for initial and continuing education of field level functionaries. They may also evolve the evaluative procedure and norms for the evaluation of learners. Eradication of illiteracy. Eradication of illiteracy will be launched as a technical and social mission. For this purpose, physical environment and other facilities of adult education centers will be improved. Radio, TV and other audiovisual aids may be used for making the process of learning effective. Findings of pedagogic research may be used in teaching learning processes. Management of National Program of Adult Education. For effective delivery of learning inputs to the adult learners, the management system of National Policy of Adult Education will be guided for planning and management according to the National Policy on Education Framework. Effective linkage between development agencies and National Program of Adult Education will be established. Commitment of political parties, mass organizations, educational institutions and volunteer agencies will be secured. Effective participation of functionaries of new National Adult Education Program, interested, beneficiary and community will be ensured by involving them in planning and day-to-day implementation of the program at grassroots levels. Project approach may be adopted for eradication of illiteracy and organization of continuing education program. A project may be defined as a administratively viable and functional autonomous field agency with complete responsibility for eradication of illiteracy and the organization of continuing education programs in a compact area. The project will function on the advice of a committee in which representatives of the functionaries, local community, people's organization and officials of the concerned development departments would be represented. The management functions at the project level would be comprise planning of the program, selection and training of supervisors and instructors, ensuring coordination and cooperation with the various developmental agencies and mass organizations. Next is provision of supplies and materials, ensuring that program is run in accordance with the overall objectives and effective evaluation and monitoring. The operational unit of adult education would continue to be the adult education center organized at the village or mahalla levels. The Adult Education Center for organizers is envisaged as an active workers who would run the Adult Education Center for organization of program. A cluster of 8 to 10 adult education centers will be overseen by a supervisor who will be selected from the local areas, preferably an experienced and successful adult education organizer. The functions of a supervisor will include organization of post-literacy and continuing education activities through a Jan Shikshan Alliance. All existing adult education projects will be reviewed and reorganized. The basic features and financial norms of all projects, whether funded by the central government and run through a governmental agency or a volunteer agency, would be similar, permitted within a range, flexibility and variation to increase effectiveness and promote innovation. Planning at the district level for illiteracy eradication would be the responsibility of a district board of education. Technical assistance would be provided to DBE by the district resource units. District Board of Education will undertake special allocation of responsibility among the various agencies implementing the program, provided overall guidance to district resource units, coordinate the mass program of functional literacy, guide and coordinate the adult education programs undertaken by the employers, etc. At the state as well as national level, there will be a commission headed by a Chief Minister and a Minister of Human Resource Development, respectively. Its membership would include senior level political leaders of the main national parties. These will be autonomous bodies and will have responsibilities for planning and implementation of national program on adult education. Their responsibilities will be included planning and budgeting for the program, creation of multi-level structure for development of materials and for training and functionaries, evaluation, monitoring, concurrent review and research, continuing education programs, provision of media support and linkage with other development departments. The day-to-day financial and administrative powers necessary for implementation of this program of action will be responsibility of the Executive Committee of the state as well as the national commissions. The State Executive Committee would be headed by the Chief Secretary, Education Secretary and the National Committee by the Union Education Secretary. Maximum attention will be paid to the subject of learner evaluation, the purpose being to ensure that all adult learners attain a level in literacy and numeracy which would enable them to continue learning in a self-reliant manner. Learner evaluation will also concern itself with the other components of National Program of Adult Education, Skill Development, Awareness, etc. A system of program evaluation will be built into National Adult Education to ensure that all adult education center organizers, supervisors and management personnel concurrently review in the participatory